Hey
Oh.
guys.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, Dan? Remember me?
I remember you.
Remember
Yeah.
me?
All right.
Very
Remember
well.
me? Remember me, y'all?
All the
Yeah.
bad memories.
Oh, come on.
Not bad memories. Eric got me through some tough times while you were in prison, chatting away, you know?
We did chat,
Did you?
and it
We
was.
did, yeah.
I wish I could have visited, in person. I don't live anywhere near there. I would, but I know it was probably tough on everybody, right?
Yeah, it was a tough time, but, we got through it, so.
I didn't have any. Visits in prison because
Yeah.
it was COVID.
They put you far away.
No, I was like 15 miles away. It was COVID, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
COVID. That's right. COVID. They wouldn't
Yeah.
let me visit anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. They think they're gonna make a comeback? They might. I'm talking about it.
I
Really?
don't know. They got some
Wow.
new. They got some new virus going on, haven't they? It's like only
Same thing.
affects children.
Same old.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
That's what I heard.
Oh, I don't know. Or
Yeah.
they banned
Yes.
Obviously,
whatever they
between
do.
us, you can just say what you want. I'll just edit it
Yeah,
out.
I didn't know.
guess.
You just let me know when you're
Yeah.
starting.
I
the
can just
recording,
edit it
and
out. No, I started already. I
Just
just
edit it out,
Oh, did
yeah.
you? Oh, okay. Yeah, edit that out then.
So, the divorce goes through next year in April. The
Yeah.
payment will basically be down to our lawyers to say you've got to pay him now that you're divorced, but I don't know when that will happen.
Okay.
Because
like it's
she
hard
doesn't
to
want to sell
force
the
her.
house.
It's hard to force her to
No,
pay.
she doesn't
right?
want to sell the house, so basically she's got to get enough funds to buy me out. So that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but we don't want to talk about these like mundane, everyday things, do we? We came here
True.
to talk about
True.
cool, fun
Right.
stuff that's unique
it's-
to us,
Yeah, I was just catching up. That's
Yeah,
probably my
yeah, I know.
fault.
You just asking. Yeah.
I mean,
How do you feel about your job then, Dan? How's it going?
I enjoy my job. It's the sort of thing I enjoy doing, I guess. And yeah, the wages are right and everything. It's not
How
too
often
far
do you
from
get out of the
home.
office? How often do you go out to clients and stuff?
I went out
Job
today
sites?
to 2 clients. It
Well-
kind of just depends on what work we get given.
So you're probably
We
traveling
have
around
clients
more
all
than
over
I
the
do.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drove like 7 hours one day
Dang.
to a client there and back. So
That's
yeah,
almost like when
keeps us
Americans
busy.
go shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it's good. I mean, my favorite thing is building computers, and that I get to do that sometimes. But other than that, I just help people to get their computers working when they go wrong. So
Turning it off and on
pretty
again.
much it. Yeah, sometimes that is the answer, unfortunately.
The IT crowd. Yeah.
That's it. It's
Are you-
genuinely true.
Can you see any like career progression within that job or within that like line of work or?
If I stay in the
Or are you
company
not
I'm
bothered?
in, I would probably be able to go up to a higher level, maybe. But again, I'd have to. I don't know.
Do you feel
I have.
worn out when you come home? Like, are you stressed or tired, or how's that?
I'm not stressed. I'm tired, but I'm just tired with the world generally at the moment. I guess the way things have been.
What, in your life or just overall?
In my life, I guess, because obviously everything that's happened recently has not been great.
No, it's not.
But it is what it is, and we just have to deal with it, and we move forward.
What do you do in your free time after work?
He plays games.
I play video games, but that's
Yeah.
what I've always enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was a bone of contention during our marriage, but at the end of the day, I was always like that. She knew what I was like when she married me, and we were together for 11 years.
Yeah, she's gonna find any excuse to do what she wants
she was
to do.
giving me every excuse under the sun, and then a month later she started seeing this other guy that I knew she was friends with and thought she was attracted to. So it just kind of confirmed things. But it is what it is.
We were just.
Get my own
I
place
was
and
just
be
saying
happy
to him
myself.
earlier, like, you don't really seem like a dad, though. You don't seem like you behave like a dad after
How do
getting
you
out
mean?
of this. Because obviously, when you grow up, it changes your behavior, and when you're married and have children, it kind of changes your behavior to become like a dad. Whereas,
I think
like,
he means like
now you've got out
sometimes
of it, you've just like rebounded back to like your early 20s kind of attitude and
I was
lifestyle.
always like this, but I was always attentive to my children.
Yeah.
I think he means
Their
like
needs
how
came
some
first.
people they like their personality totally changes.
Changes
You know
when
what I
they
mean?
have children.
Yeah.
For like
Yeah.
5 or 10 years. Yeah.
Some people.
There,
I don't know.
there was one of my colleagues. His dad was given an ultimatum by his mother. He was told, you either quit playing video games or I'll leave you, and he quit. And yeah.
Tell
Whereas
the
in my
woman to quit
situation,
shopping and doing her hair and stuff. I don't know, whatever they
in
do.
my situation though, I don't think me quitting video games would have fixed anything. I think it was too far gone. We were not in a good place with each other,
Yeah.
so it's better to be apart.
Maybe there was a fundamental incompatibility. I don't know.
I mean, if you believe in all the astrology stuff that you seem to believe in, then
yeah,
yes,
but
apparently we weren't very compatible.
I can't tell you who's compatible with who based on that. I'm not good enough at it. Even if that's even possible, I can't tell you that.
You get these compatibility websites, and apparently it was one of the least compatible options. So take it with a pinch of salt, I guess.
Dude, you know the like YouTube ad blocker thing where they've like banned ad blockers?
Yeah.
Well, I've left it like that. I've just turned it off, and half the adverts I get are like scams.
Yes, there's a lot of those.
Yeah,
Bitcoin
you've seen
scams,
it?
stock trading scams, all
Do they
sorts.
not have any regulations on the ads? Because
You think they
that
would?
seems like somebody could possibly have a lawsuit against, let's say, a platform that is blasting a certain
Advertising,
percent,
a fake
of a
product,
certain,
yeah.
like a known scam. They're kind of putting it on all these screens. They could be liable for that, I feel.
I think you have to remember that these things have happened on YouTube before, the big controversies, and it's taken months, if not years, for them to make a stance against things.
I've also seen some like scam security cameras. I don't know if you've seen those, that are just like it shows like a bunch of, I don't know, what look like Americans. I would say young Silicon Valley workers, like working in a lab building something, is like their ad, and it's talking about, oh, the greatest security camera, and it's so small and it does everything and da da da. But then when you read it, the whole company is like based in China, and there's no China. It's all Chinese products and all Chinese employees, and like
And
it's got
everything
nothing
you
to do with
record with your camera will go straight to the Chinese government.
probably, but
Yeah.
they have acquired it, or they, usually I would say, somebody comes up with something, they get made an offer they can't refuse, as they say, and then that's how they quote get it. It's not like they're not always developing it themselves or inventing it themselves, and that's not why they have the patent. They buy the patents. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Like all the time. And I knew a guy in my high school that invented something that is on, like, it's now on every automobile like in America, and they paid him, I think, $250,000 for it. Oh, we'll pay you this big check for this patent. Now it's on literally every automobile. Like you would have made, who knows how much, but
dude, those cars are
it's like
so complicated now. Like so many parts in
yeah,
them.
it was like a motor for the windshield wiper delay. That's what he invented. But anyway, it's just like one of those things. Like I'm saying, all tech is a lot of it is anyway that way, where they buy it up.
Don't you feel like cars have
And then
become too complicated, like the parts inside them? How do you feel about that? Because obviously you like to make
I
your
don't
own
think so.
cars and stuff.
I don't think there's nothing to me. I know that there's too much going on in there. Yeah, that there's a lot of stuff that's in there that doesn't need to be in there.
Sensors,
Most of it
computers, all that stuff.
they'll chalk it up to
Safety features.
efficiency, safety, and then also they want to have software diagnose everything as well. You know what I mean? So they have an engine control module or whatever that it can be proprietary as well as like those sensors and this and that, so that you can't do it yourself.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
none of that's necessary. None of it's needed. Because long before that, you can do mechanical safety features. They don't have to be electronic like that. And all the the old cars that we used to have, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're perfectly fine. They're not as fuel efficient, but that's because that's how they were designed. It would be easy to redesign them to be fuel efficient. That's not the problem. It's just that. But even a modern car, like taking it apart and putting it back together, I can do that. That's not a big deal mechanically. It's the electronics and the proprietary software that I run into trouble when I work on my own stuff. Because like you said, there's too much that's not necessary. If we had one of those apocalypse or whatever, I think like I'm pretty confident I could build a car from nothing, like smelting my own.
Do you know what I mean?
metal
Like when
and
you watch
making it
those Russian
drive.
guys, they can repair stuff with
Yeah.
like just common everyday stuff they find. Whereas like if it's something
Yeah.
super high tech, you can't do that. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of some of the point, but my point too is how much you have to weigh the advantage of these super high tech deal. The advantage is not really there. It's not, you know what I mean? It's slightly better, but not enough to where you can't work on it. That's not better.
That's what I
Those
thought I'd ask you.
100-year-old. Yeah, I mean, I like thinking of that stuff too, because when I retire, which is not too long from now, about 5 years, I'm gonna start building my own stuff. I'm gonna build, mostly mechanical stuff, and with small. They only need like a small electric module. Even mostly a laptop would run. Like whatever, or an iPad, whatever. You could build your own steam engines, like we were talking about those little trains, or I wanted to build a drilling machine. I wanted to build, yeah, probably a little car, maybe it depends on how crazy I get. Maybe I'll probably rent like a backhoe or something. That's I could probably do that, but
All the ideas
it's
are
just
coming
a
out.
hydraulic pump. What's that?
All the ideas are coming out now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just stuff for fun, because people, when I tell them I'm going to retire, they're like, I could never do that. No, I would get so bored. And I'm like, look, man, like, I just don't want to be told what to do. It's not that I won't do anything. I want to do what I want to do without, my employer telling me what it is I'm doing. There's no difference. It's not like I'm going to sit around and do nothing.
What do you think like other people do when they retire at a similar age?
They either get another job, or they just fill their life with mundane stuff. Typically, I don't see a lot of retirees being productive. Do you know any?
I know
Maybe
that
farmers.
like people in this country can't really afford to retire as early as they used to be able to, like on average.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my dad's basically still working. I think he's not
Yeah.
He
like
would
fully
be if he could,
retired,
yeah.
But
Well,
I
up
mean,
until a month ago, let's say.
Yeah.
but do you know anyone that is retired?
Um,
Yeah. Well, all of them I know, like you said, the boomers are in retirement age now, which is supposedly the largest portion of the population, at least in America. I don't know, but
is it?
they're doing what you're saying is the same thing. Like they spend time with their kids. They might live in a retirement home. They might live in a you know hospital, or they might be working in their garden. But that's all I've ever seen them do, like for real. of course, in America, and I don't know what it's like in England, but in the small towns, they will own small businesses. Like, they've retired and they had some money, and so they bought like a small business, and so now they're like self-employed. We've got a lot of that here.
Right, like doing like crafts and stuff, like selling things on eBay and things like that, I guess.
I don't know if it's the women buying or the men buying all the little downtown boutiques, like the little shops you go in, and it's really totally full of stuff no one will ever buy, but they
Yeah.
own like all the little
Dude,
shops. Yeah.
our high streets are so much like that.
And they
And
just sit
these
in there and
shops,
just
like,
chat with people that come in, but they don't, what I mean, that they're not doing anything, but that was their retirement plan.
right. But those shops like
I remember.
change ownership like
Oh yeah,
every year, like
They
because it's old
fail and
people.
they
fold
pop
quite
up and then
often. Yeah.
change.
Well, here these old people got enough money that a lot of times they'll buy that storefront or whatever it is, or so whether they don't care if they make any money, they're
Right.
just sitting in there to chat with customers. That's the reason they're there.
You know
Yeah,
that
the
They don't
place
care
I
if they
difference
showed
sell
you?
it,
here.
sell anything.
Go on,
Yeah.
Dan.
Sorry, yeah, the difference here is everything is rented, and when they fail to make money, they lose the rental agreement and then they close
Yeah.
down. So that's why it's always changing here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
But
see that
it's
channel where
kinda,
like
in
everything's boarded
America.
up? That guy
Oh
in
yeah, you
England,
showed me
he's
that
like
one.
going around and like,
Wow.
these weird towns where
San
everything's like.
Francisco's getting that way.
What do you reckon about that, Dan? You seen that?
I have seen those videos of the old mining towns where the houses are all boarded up. Again, there's no commerce in the area, so the houses dip in value because there's no work. So it just becomes dilapidated and people forget about it and they move to
Well, one of
places
them
where
was like 10 miles
work
from
is
Manchester
available.
or something. It was like one of them was 10 minutes drive from Manchester. He showed.
But have you guys not seen, like, have you ever heard of Detroit or like
Yep.
even sections of Philadelphia,
Yeah,
large
I
portions of a
can't even
major
talk
city,
about that.
like a major city, like what I'm saying, you could think not quite as big as London, but it's pretty big, and like a quarter of the city's basically abandoned. Yeah, oh yeah, every
Yeah.
day, because she's out in public now. She wasn't when we first got married. She was a housewife and stayed home mostly, but now she goes out a lot, and she's starting to see the same quote stereotype. Because like, I guess over there they're more like they'll walk up and just tell you whatever they think of you. If you're acting up, if you're being
Yeah.
a nuisance. We were at I'll give them an example. We were at Costco and slapping her hand on the counter, and so they gave her the next pizza out so they rewarded that behavior. And that's what I was telling, my wife. I was like, hey, it apparently worked for this woman before, so she's going to continue to do it. She was like, but all these people have been waiting way
Oh,
longer.
yeah.
How come she gets the next pizza? And, like, she was like yelling like loudly this in public, my wife, in a crowd. How come she gets? And she was like pointing out and going crazy. I was like, hey,
Really?
you're
Oh,
gonna have
wow.
to start a fist fight here. Yeah. No, I'm saying that
Do you think America's
everyone's
changing her?
thinking. No, I think, well, I mean, slightly, but it's just becoming more reinforced, put it that way.
I
But as
mean,
far as
is America changing her behavior, do you reckon?
do you mean by being outspoken, or
Like she's
I
doing
think she was
things that
always
she
kind of that
wouldn't
way?
do if she was in Japan, and the same thing happened in Japan.
No,
Do you think over
because
time
that's what you got to
America's
understand.
changing her personality and her
People in
values
Japan are nice.
and stuff?
They're considerate and they're polite and they're quiet. Until you mess up, they're going to be the first ones to call you out. They will. You know what
Right.
I mean?
But that's
Whereas
only
actually,
within their
I'm
own
more
country, though, isn't it? That's only within their own society.
no.
When you take them out of that society, because they haven't got like the backup, like will they still behave the same way?
I'm usually kind of reserved to where I'll be the guy, and this is how I am in academics too. I'll raise my hand or I'll step in only when no one else will do it.
Hmm.
If no
Yeah.
one else will do it, then I'll do it. But I'm never going to be like the first one. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit different that way. Whereas she'll be the first one to just say, "Hey, that's not right. What you're doing is wrong,"
Have you told
and
my
start
brother like
yelling
what your
and
wife
whatever.
used to do um before she met you?
I don't know about unusual. I
I
mean,
mean,
she was, you know, I guess in the upper part of her class in Japan in a private school, which uh, her independent anyways, and kind of like maybe people in Japan they bully you if you're different in any way, and so she had to become stronger for that reason a little bit, and so she ended up working uh, for I think it was Panasonic, like in the software engineering team, and
yeah,
she was obviously the only female in a sort of like male programming team, whatever. And then you know, the company when I think it was when 2008, crash sort of laid a bunch of people off, and she was in that group. So she decided to go around the world. She bought an around the world ticket and by herself with just a backpack. And she's not a big girl,
yeah.
and she went everywhere, like more than 45 countries she went,
Wow.
and she traveled for a solid year just on money she had saved.
She wasn't working.
And so
Okay.
no, no, she had saved some money, from her job. And anyway, so while she did that, she started this blog. Back then blogs were bigger than
Yeah.
and people started. I don't really know how a blog even becomes found or popular, but apparently hers started getting popularity. And I had been talking to her, and I had joined the military shortly after or around the time she started her trip. And so she was sending me postcards, from the places she visited. And she went to every major monument you can think of, and even crazy stuff. She was taking like these, they're called 72-hour buses and stuff, rides through Bolivia and the jungle and all this stuff to these places, and riding with, I would say, people that there's no way I would ride that bus, and like they probably would have
Yeah.
kidnapped me kind of places. She went to the Gaza Strip when it was at that time also being attacked. She went to, I think, like the Hezbollah side or whatever, like all kinds of stuff, like going everywhere. And she was in, and it was also weird that I think she went to, that attack was happening. She left Middle East,
She didn't go to
or
England then?
eventually when she went,
She didn't
uh,
go to Europe?
no, she went to England. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she
All
did.
right. She's
Hmm.
been here. Okay.
Yeah, she did.
Cool.
She's got a photo in front of like Big Ben and stuff, and she had, all the touristy things. The pyramids, she went everywhere. But
Did she
there was
leave
only a
London
couple of
though?
countries she didn't.
Was
What's
she
that?
just in London or did she leave London?
I think so. She was saying, so in some of the countries that are more expensive, to live or to visit, she didn't stay in them very long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Like this dump.
you had a year with the ticket, you have a year of unlimited flights, air flights.
Huh?
But obviously
What?
if you save up money, you're living off that money. And so it'll stretch further because you have to live off a solid year, like just from your
Was
savings.
she
It's,
like very highly educated then, would you say, like from her
oh yeah,
background in her school?
yeah,
Like, could you like mention something from history, like a certain
no,
like Roman leader,
no,
and she would know it,
nope,
like a
nope.
certain like
She's
a
not good at history.
lesser known one, things like that.
She has an English degree,
Certain
and
philosopher, you know,
no,
and
no, no.
what
So
he
she could
advocated.
tell you stories. She could tell you stories that are like, I guess, culturally told in Japan, and she knows extensive like these stories from I forget what you call it. What is that type of play that they do? The live performance play. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about? Where they tell stories.
Like
kabuki,
theatrical.
kabuki.
Yep, kabuki. Yep.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
she knows all those, and like she's from Osaka, which I guess is where maybe it's most popular or originated. And she has like a cultural knowledge, but she doesn't have like historical fact type knowledge where, when I start talking about history, she doesn't really care.
Yeah, like name
she's
all
not interested.
the most famous Spartans and things like that. Yeah.
No, she's not going to know any of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
In general, she doesn't have the same. She does not have the same interests that we do. In
Have
general.
you ever seen this program called University Challenge from the UK? Probably not, but it's kind of crazy. Like things they know like seem like impossible for someone to have like learned and remembered within their lifetime. Like the scope of what they know. It's like it's really weird. Like you'd have to see it to know what I'm on about. Have you ever met
Apparently
any
that's a
professors,
trait.
Dan? Have you ever met any like professors outside of your university? Outside of your education?
I was going to say, obviously, I met them at university.
They probably weren't the best professors, though. Let's be honest. Imagine like Indiana
I
Jones,
think my
like
yeah, well, he's
at the
not that
start of the
stereotypical.
movie. At the start of the movie, when he's like at school and he's like teaching people or whatever it was, you know.
I think my friend's father was a professor, so I've met him, but yeah, not really.
I tried
a lot
to.
of hers is more
who is this?
social.
This
I
is
don't
a
feel
social
like I'm
worker.
very
Who's
helpful.
this girl?
No, she's a young person that Daniel knows from his gaming adventures.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
my friend group primarily consists of people that I met on the internet, but meet up with in real life and go to events with. And she's kind of part of that group, but
Yeah.
She
yeah,
lives a long way
it's
away. She lives in like Guildford or something.
she does, yeah,
It's like far side of London.
yeah,
But she comes in and meets up in person with your group?
yeah. So we've been to Birmingham. Trying to think. I haven't. I think I've only been to two meetups with her. So we went to Birmingham and we stayed in an Airbnb, and there were like 10 of us in the Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Bury. Sorry, it's like out near Manchester. There's an arcade club that's like a 4-story high. It's an old abandoned warehouse, and it's just full of arcade cabinets. So we all went up there and just
Hey,
met
that's
up.
awesome.
Yeah,
sounds like
it's
fun.
the sort of thing that we enjoy doing. We get to spend time with our friends, and yeah, I think I'm going to do a lot more of that now that I'm, getting divorced, because I'll have more time to do my own
I
thing.
love how you say it, getting
Yeah.
divorced. Like, God
I mean,
damn it, I'm getting divorced.
it is what it is. It's a long time to be with
Yeah.
someone to split up with them, but
Yeah.
it had to happen, I guess, and realistically, I think we'll both be better off for it. So
Did you see PewDiePie?
you got to do
went
the right
to,
thing for your children.
On PewDiePie's channel, he went to like a Japanese game arcade, and he pretty much like had
I haven't seen it yet.
the games to himself. There wasn't many people in
Yeah.
there. He's just playing on all the games. It's really funny. I would do the
Yeah,
exact same
I went
thing.
to an arcade yesterday, and it was very quiet towards the end of the day because it was a Sunday, and I guess everyone's out Christmas shopping. So I had so many cabinets to myself. I was playing light gun games, and I just had 2 guns and was just using both guns. It's just
Remember
good
when
fun.
we used to play Time Crisis on TV and we
Yeah, I
listened
played that
to
yesterday.
The
So good.
Darkness on the
Yeah,
CD player? You remember?
while
Wait,
we were
the
shooting
band,
people.
The Darkness?
It's
Yeah,
like a
the
band,
Darkness.
yeah.
Those guys
Such a
are
good band.
hilarious.
He knows it as well.
I still watch Justin Hawkins. So he's got a YouTube channel, the singer from The Darkness.
What's
and
it called?
It's Justin Hawkins Rides Again,
Okay, I'll check it out.
and he will review new artists, and he'll talk about the music industry. He lives in Switzerland now, It's quite
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Probably
I feel
caused a lot
like,
of
you know what?
problems.
I imagine that stuff's pushed on them. There's no reason why they would all go do that. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
just of their own idea, their own choice. Now we're rich and famous. Let's all become drug addicts.
It's
No, I think
part of the
there's
scene. Yeah.
but still even the scene, this and that, like because I played music for years when I was in college and it was more
Yeah.
drinking. No one would
Yeah.
not like a and I
Do you know Guns N' Roses? You must have heard of them.
of course.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So the drummer from Guns N' Roses was literally kicked out of the band because of the amount of drugs that he used to take. His name is Steven Adler, and you know, even for them, it was too much. And the guitarist Slash has died,
Slash.
been resurrected by, yeah, he's been saved by doctors multiple times from
Oh yeah.
overdoses, and
Oh
Okay.
even
yeah.
for him, it was too much.
I heard you
Oh,
listening
why
to the
not?
midnight yesterday or whenever it was, Dan. I heard you
The
listening to
Midnight.
the midnight, yeah. On your phone or
Oh,
something.
okay. I think it was. I was listening to 1975 last night, but yeah, the Midnight are good. They're quite chill.
When you
I
go
don't
on
think they're
these
taking
I sent
drugs.
that to, yeah, I see.
these
I was sending that to Eric like last year.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
You go to concerts too there or no?
I do. I was supposed to be going to one in October, but obviously didn't pan out that way. I'd like to go to more next year, though. Definitely.
Squeaky
It's
Have you
a,
does.
ever heard
Squeaky does.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Uncle Squeaky. Yeah, he loves this concert.
they're
I've seen a few of my favourite bands in Birmingham or maybe London, but some cities I'm less inclined to want to go to and stay at for very long. So
yeah.
Lol.
Well,
Are you being a bit
when you go to these
insensitive, Dan?
generally,
so let me ask,
but I live there. Yeah,
I can tell you that compare. I just don't know are your quote gangs and criminals similar to what we have here in America, or is it like a totally different type of thing? Well, but what I'm saying is this is my I'll paint you the I'm in a rental car uh, with one other guy who looks and is about the same size, as me, and we're
should we?
driving, to try to get to our destination through this section of the city, and every block, there's like a four streets where there's stoplights. In all four corners, there would be a crowd of about 15 to 20 individuals that were standing around, obviously, in the neighborhood. They'll come up
Yeah,
and they'll just uh, what they're doing is when they're looking, can they tell if they can get in your car? Is your window down? Can they reach in?
yeah,
Can they grab the hand, get you out? You know, and if it's gonna be something quick, yeah, they can pull a gun and then just tell you get out of your car, and they
yeah,
do. And then as well, they just want to, if you're a customer, come and sell you whatever. And so, like, I don't know kind of what you see
I was gonna say like our
uh,
gangs are more like covert, like in what they do.
with,
Huh?
uh,
Huh?
well, give me a rundown of what uh, what would be an
We don't know because we don't live in a
stereotypical.
city really where those people live. Um,
Uh,
there are
I
obviously
can give you an
selling
example.
selling drugs and like blasting music
Yeah,
and carrying weapons, but they're not doing it in like of places where the police are gonna obviously notice. But at the same time, you can also tell who's like a criminal, but the police can't really do anything with that without catching them doing anything. So they know that as long as they're a little bit covert, they'll get away with it. But they are also stupid, so they're kind of
Connected. Can
they're
you hear me?
brazen. Yeah, I can hear you.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure because I swapped to the other router.
All right.
So
They're
I think
impulsive and they don't know a
realistically,
better way of life. They don't, Go on.
I think realistically they weigh up the consequences for their crimes,
Mhm.
and they think actually it makes more sense to commit the crime and make the money, and if I get caught, then I'll just take this sentence because it's not that bad,
Yep.
and then I can carry on a life of crime afterwards.
Yep.
The ends justify the mean, and the reward outweighs the risk for them.
Yep. Same thing in America. And I used to work. I probably told Ash. I don't know if you knew. I worked in a prison, half prison / half insane asylum for 4.5 years, and that was the behavior that I saw. That
Yeah.
they would weigh the consequence, and sometimes they think it's worth it, and they just go ahead and do it because they knew that like it would be worth it to them, quote. And if it wasn't, then they wouldn't, And sometimes if they didn't know, if they couldn't decide, they'd go ahead and do it. If they didn't know the consequence or they didn't understand it, they just go ahead and commit the crime anyway, just to find out, because that was what a lot of laws or a lot of areas, when new ones move in, they're testing the waters to see, and then also they if they find out, oh, it's too harsh here, they will move and they'll go somewhere else. And so that's why Texas, they're very strict on their laws, and other states they'll have the exact same law but they don't enforce it. And so that's why certain areas in Texas are super safe and some are not. It's based on exactly like you said. They'll go to, in the big cities, they go to a court, and that court system immediately wants to settle. It costs the state money to house these people in a prison and everything else that goes along with it. So they really want to just settle. They want to, minimum everything. And they'll do that as much as they can. And so they'll even let them out early, all the time. And so the criminals know that. And so that's, of course, what they're counting on when they commit the crime.
Yeah, some of the people here, they just kind of treat prison like a hotel, because they'll only get like a 1 or 2 year sentence for like burgling someone's house or something.
Yeah, and let's say you stole 10 grand and then you spend it, they can't really get it back. So that's why they're going to YOLO. They're going to go buy brand new rims and go partying, with all the money in case they do get caught. Well, then they've already used it up. And the state will never make them pay that back. They'll say, oh, time served. They even call their sentence paying their debt, when really we're paying for you to live there like for 10 years or whatever. And that's supposed to be your form of payment as well, so it's all messed up. That whole thing needs to be replaced. But will it? Probably not, because it's not really about practicality. It's the virtue signaling type mentality where people just want to make the appearance that they're doing something about this problem rather than actually fixing the problem.
These
And
ones in
California
the
is a
Milton
prime
Keynes,
example.
though, these ones in Milton Keynes, they're quite new, though, aren't they, Dan? They've probably moved in from
I
other
don't know
areas
if
of the
they're
country or overseas.
yeah, I don't know if they're new, but
Milton
they're
Keynes wasn't like
certainly
that like
more
10,
prevalent.
20 years ago.
There was still gang crime though.
There was still chav.
County
There was still
lines is a
criminals,
huge
yeah,
issue.
but these kind of like
County lines is a huge
really
issue in this
violent.
country.
Because of the county court system, is it certain judges are more strict or what?
No. So county lines are drug runners who go between counties and distribute drugs. So that's what I mean by county lines.
Yeah.
Basically, you'll get teenagers who are coerced into being drug mules for older people. I know of a case where there were some people who were members of a gang who took someone to a woods, stripped them down, humiliated them, videoed it, blah blah blah. Then a few weeks later, there was a house party where this gang that had done this some of the members were at this house party, and then I think it was like 10 guys with machetes turned up and just fucking
What?
stabbed the guys and just killed them. Yeah,
Wow.
in retaliation for what happened.
Is
So,
that like a
Jeez.
news
I think it was
story?
two
Heard?
guys.
Was that a news story, or
No,
was that something
so
you personally like knew?
yeah, personally knew. I don't want to say like anything about who it was, but yeah,
You
that
told me
was
that story as well
two-
about that person you know who's like related to someone who got shot up north, wasn't it? That serial killer.
someone. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a serial killer years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can respect it,
Do
but
you guys
again, it's difficult.
Do
do
you
you guys
guys
have? I know in America, yeah, you guys. There's like a lot of incompetent police officers in America, and then also a lot of what I would say police officers that were either ex gang members or ex criminals, or in a family that their family members are all criminals, and so they sort of use it as a almost an organized crime type thing.
It's funny you
There's a
should
lot of
say
that.
that.
That's pretty common in our cities here.
Oh.
In my own experience, I've actually had negative run-ins with the police from
Mhm.
being a victim of crime.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got assaulted. I got hit with an iron bar. And when we reported it to the police, the guy was like, "If you'd have been hit with a bar, you wouldn't be here," and just didn't believe my story at all. Like I had a massive lump on the back of my head where I
What?
got hit. He
What
just
did?
didn't care.
Yeah. And what came of it?
Oh, it went to
Nothing came
court,
of
didn't
it.
it? Went to court, I thought.
No, that was a different one.
That was a
No.
different fight
So
when you were
did he
younger
had
What
you?
came of it?
in
What came
Buckingham.
of it was some guys went round and kicked the shit out of the guys who did it, but yeah,
Nothing to do with
that
the police
wasn't
action.
anything to do with the police.
Yeah.
No, and what happened was the police officer who was involved in that, a couple of years later, he was sent to prison for inappropriate relations with a victim of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
So again, he was a self-serving, he was fulfilling
Yeah.
his own needs in that role. He wasn't there to prevent crime. He was there to do what he wanted, and
Get
he
paid
wanted
for
to
it.
have sex with women. Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Human experience
Yeah.
that I noticed in Japan. So this is just according to historical documents. If you read the when the Meiji era began, and they moved to, rather than an imperial style, to more of a government slash imperial. Many of the old warlords became they they were put into governmental positions. These positions, uh, of course, were set up almost like, at that time militarily, even as far as ranks and this and that and loyalty. And then what happened is, in their days, these warriors, like a samurai, is highly respected or whatever at the time the leaders were in their community, and so the government ended up being that way, and then it trickled down. And so what I saw when I was there is, to be in a public office such as a police officer, you were a highly respected member of the community, and the people treated you that way. And you got, like, even if you weren't getting paid really well, you had a large amount of respect in your social community. And I still noticed that being a thing when I went there. But that's 180 degrees the case here in America, where we have defund the police and all this, a lot of anxiety and stress related to them from experiences like you mentioned, Dan, that it's
Yeah.
basically no one respects the police, no one wants to be a police officer. There's a few good ones out there, sure, that are kind of like doing all the work and towing the line and creating some type of order out of the chaos, but it's not a position like that most people, I guess, aspire to become, or
Why do you think they put
they
all
don't
these
hold
cop
it with
shows
pride.
on the TV? You have them
The
too,
cop
don't you? All
shows,
these cop
the
shows.
live ones, the real ones, or
No,
fake
the
ones,
the
the real
the
ones.
ones like CSI or
Oh, those are fake ones. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to show that okay, cops do a lot of work, and they're good. All of them are good except for the one guy in the office that's kind of pulling it, the one bad apple in the barrel, right? That they'll typically find, but it's not the case. Yeah.
what was that one people said was
I
really
can give
good?
you
It was
another
like The
example.
Wire or something. The Wire. Never saw that though.
No, I don't know that one. I've heard of it. I've just never watched it.
Yeah.
We have the live show called Cops, which you've probably seen, where basically they just have a film crew ride around with patrolmen, and then they respond to arrests like in real life. And
Yeah.
those are kind of more accurate to what really goes down.
It's like low effort TV.
And it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'd rather have some type of realism because obviously the CSI and stuff like that cases don't work like that, not really, and it's not this. The justice system is usually not as just as they portray.
Yeah.
But I would say this, like, I do respect them because I worked in, like I said, that prison, and you couldn't, like, the amount of money they get paid is peanuts compared to what they have to put up with, you know.
Oh yeah.
And it's just amazing to me because I'm in the military where, yeah, there's times when you deploy and you might be in a war type scenario, but those cops are in that nearly every day, like they're deployed not
Yeah.
constantly.
Did you ever meet
Because
anyone
And there will
who
be
was?
riots.
Did you ever meet a group of people playing Dungeons and Dragons in prison? You know what I'm talking
did
about?
who?
You, Eric. Did you ever meet
Oh,
any?
no,
Did you ever meet a
definitely
group
not.
of prisoners playing Dungeons
D&D?
and
Definitely not.
Dragons?
Why would they be playing D&D? What's all that about?
There were no intelligent people in prison other than a couple sociopaths that I met. They were still not that intelligent. They just had some sort of, one of them, what sociopath means, that he has no ability to empathize, whatever, no conscience. And so it made
Yeah.
him, his ruthless behavior made him calculating, like, type individual. And so he was
Yeah.
intelligent in that sense. And then another one was like an idiot savant where he had that Rain Man syndrome, which is a form of intelligence for sure. But
Yeah.
I
There were
mean,
no
nobody
like.
is in there doing anything.
There were no TVs to watch.
They had a TV in the day room. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. How much of the
Yeah,
time
I
were
mean,
they allowed like out of their cells?
they would play board games. They would play dominoes and they played Monopoly even. How much time did they go outside?
Yeah, out of their
Like
cells.
3 times a day they go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
they
and
go
then a
out in
day
the middle
room.
bit
One common room.
sometimes. Because what I heard is
And
like
what?
in the UK prisons, it used to be much more open. You'd be able to spend much more time outside of your cell than what it was when I went there a couple of years ago. And that's because of
Do
like
you think it
funding and
was
staffing and stuff.
being, quote, in the system as you were? Do you think it was helpful in any way to anyone in there?
Probably, yeah.
Like for getting rehabilitated and things like that? Like it's supposed to be?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. I didn't see much of
Depends
that.
on the circumstances of like who it was and why they were there. Like, but it's a war
Yeah, I think
between the bad guys in the government and the bad guys in society, you know. And instead of like feudalism, it's like fought with laws and propaganda, you know. Instead of weapons, it's being fought with words and laws and
yeah,
economy
I
and
think
you know.
we've sort of talked about this before, Ash, where it, in our opinion, like what percentage of the population is kind of a mob mentality, or what some might call an NPC or whatever. You have to do something with them, or they will kind of, a lot of them do revert to chaos. Like they'll let it happen or they'll become a part of it. if you don't have some sort of law set up.
Yeah,
Like,
look at the London
Framework,
riots, for
yeah.
example. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you go to a third world country when we deploy and we go to sub-Saharan Africa and stuff like that, like you'll see the difference in a place that has law versus some that do not. It's chaos, you know. You know, and even if they quote police themselves, it's still chaos. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's you want to be in a country that has a strong legal system, and just like I said, even in America, Texas has a stronger legal system than the, you know, Mississippi next to it or whatever. It's like big difference. You'll notice it even just walking around. And Japan, you know, like so there's levels, and that I do agree there needs to be some type of strict laws, and then you need to enforce them. And that's where these battles that we see politically, how much is the victim's fault, how much is, I don't know, oppression and being poor and poverty, social status, is it the fault of the person or their circumstance, and they start arguing about that, and then they just neglect to even enforce the laws that are already on the books, you know. And that's kind of, they want to like make things up as they go according to their own beliefs versus what's already been voted into law, you know. And that's where I get upset, because I'm like, look, if you want to change the law, do what you tell us to do. Why don't you make a new one
It's
instead of just
quite liberal here.
bending and not enforcing?
The
I
sentence
was
is
going to
quite
ask you
liberal
about
here, but
your
that's kind of
time.
good and bad. Like, if the person doesn't deserve to be
Yeah.
there, that's a good thing. But if they deserve to be there and they ignore all the punishments, then perhaps it's a bad thing. It's like kind of cuts
Mhm.
both ways,
Well,
right? Because I
Clearly,
definitely met
your
people
time
who
there
seemed like
was.
they didn't deserve to be there.
Yeah. I mean, your time there was kind of.
Several people, just in my little bit, you know.
including yourself, including yourself.
Yeah. Because the
We
time
won't
you
get
spent
into-
there.
I won't even talk about that.
No, but I
I
will.
mean,
I can say it. You don't have to
realistically,
say it.
like realistically though, do you feel like spending time there, do you feel like you came out with a different viewpoint
About what?
to when you went in?
The
About the
about
system
prison?
and whether being there
Oh yeah, it's
helped you
totally
reflect
different.
on.
Like the impression you have
Yeah.
of prison as someone who's never been there is completely different to what it's actually like to go there, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
So this facility was built in the 1800s, mid 1800s,
Wow.
as a tuberculosis clinic for a Dr. McKnight, who supposedly discovered the cure to tuberculosis at this place. He
Wow.
brought everyone from all over the world here to this location back when
I've
all that
heard
was
of
there was like
this.
a railroad. And anyway, so they
Yeah.
built this compound like a miniature city. There was a power plant with a huge smoke, really tall smokestack, and then like some outlying buildings, so a little like hospital type place, and then a rec play, you know, gymnasium, recreation area, and then all these little, I don't know what you call it, dormitory building styles that later in the 50s it became an actual asylum. And then what they did was they had um, little classrooms. Some of them were classrooms where they would get psychological, you know, they would sit down with a psychologist and kind of go through exercises as a group. Then there was another section that was like I don't, like kind of like a factory style warehouse type setup where they quote would do work, and they could earn like $2 a day or something, whatever. And then of course they still had the rec area. They still had the cafeteria area. It was a different building, the main cafeteria. And then they had you know, the littler versions in their built in the dorms where of the people that couldn't leave. So the whole compound was around a fence. And if you were under a lower level of supervision, you could walk around the compound. You can't go over the fence, but you could go, you know, like from all these outside facilities. But I was in the violent dorms, the violent people with the most aggressive behaviors, like your rapes or whatever, the, you know, the more the higher crimes. They couldn't leave their building at all. Obviously, they were locked. But like most of them were not locked actually, and they could walk around. They could work in the cafeteria, like, you know, or they could work at that factory, or they could visit boyfriends and girlfriends. They were not allowed to have like sexual relations, but they could go and sit and chat, with people from another building, because there were male dorms and there were female dorms. They called them dorms, but these are blocks, and then but they were different buildings, and then they had sub basements too and all this. And anyways, so it was unique the way I'm describing it, but I've seen other facilities in America at least set up that way, where it's not like the old days where I think maybe in the 50s or whatever that you might see on TV, where there's just like this huge row of bars. Most of those facilities are like shut down, or they're federal penitentiaries that are mostly for just straight up murderers. So ours were not like that. We had a lot of people that also just had mental problems, and so it was more of a, I don't know. They were violent all the time, and they put people in the hospital all the time. But yeah, it was weird. I don't think anyone got rehabilitated there that I could tell. For people that were in the lockdown, you know what I mean? Which is different, where they had, it was so stupid, like tokens that they could spend, based on that. But then the others that were not in the lock, yeah, they could order stuff. That's just nobody had any money. But like, of course, as soon as a guy ordered like a PlayStation or something, he's going to trade it for sexual favors most of the time. Like any food,
Wow.
drinks, or items that he orders, it's going to get traded for, them sleeping around. Like, because they would hide and find areas, and we would find like people digging from tunnels, like, or from people did like a hole through somebody's closet into somebody else's closet through the wall, and staff hadn't noticed for like enough amount of time. It was just crazy. Like, they would find ways
Like
in the
Shawshank
street, behind
Redemption.
a tree, behind a bush. You were supposed to be watching them, but like the staff sometimes were not paying attention.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah, it was. I could tell you some wild stories. I could go on for hours of crazy stuff that happened in there, but
That's all
it's
right.
totally different than living on the outside versus inside.
Yeah.
And they do get
Yeah.
institutionalized, and they do, a lot of them get arrested just so that they can go back in there because they'd rather live there, kind of deal. That happened too.
Yeah.
It's kind
They'd
of a
rather not be on
stable
the outside.
environment. It's like weird. It's like a
Yeah.
very stable environment. It's kind of like, imagine if like you were in school, but you never left school. It's kind of
Yep.
like that,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
He was kind of a
What I
liar.
didn't like, they
Yeah.
have human rights that officer and laws that apply in these facilities, where it's sort of like backwards. The officer or staff has no rights whatsoever, none,
Yeah.
and then the prisoner has all of them. And so he would yell, spit, scream, try to fight you, try to punch you, and all this, and literally nothing would happen to him. But like, if you did that, if you punched him back, you're fired. They might press charges. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it was backwards. And you can imagine what that would do, because psychologically, and as well as just people, they'll just put up with pretty much anything. And then what's that going to do? Encourage them to act that way. And so it gets out of hand. And then you've got
Yeah.
prisoners kind of running the place in some areas when some certain staff were on shift.
Similar situations here with security guards, especially with offenders who were under the age of 18. They could get away with anything.
Yeah.
I used to see them slap security guards on the head, bold ones. They would slap them on the head, and they wouldn't be able to do anything, because if they touched them, they would call the police and say they were, they touched them, and that would
Yeah.
be it. The person who was
What would
supposed
you
to be protecting people would be in trouble.
What would you do, Dan?
So, well, I couldn't do anything because I was
He'd
I was
whip
just
out his
witnessing it,
ukulele.
I'd punch him right in the face.
and
don't
I
care.
would get arrested and put away.
Yeah, I would, but it would be worth it to me.
But yeah,
There's my consequence for you. Certain times it is. At certain times you do have to just do what you know is right, and then face the consequence. If it's right, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can quote punish me, but I'm not gonna like just allow that to happen. I have my limits too.
My
Yeah,
brother
Somebody
did
slaps me
used
in
to
the
get
head.
into
unfortunate.
fights all the time. My brother used to get into
Who
a lot
did?
of fights when he was
Dan did?
younger with all the
Yeah.
chavs at school. Yeah.
All those chavs.
I recently almost got glassed when I was at the pub. To be fair,
You got what happened?
someone almost glassed me.
Were they wearing Argyle? What was the situation? Tracksuit.
It was
No,
Irish,
so
wasn't
it was a member of the traveling community.
Uh-huh.
We were
Irish
playing
gypsies,
darts,
yeah.
and he was sat. Yeah, he was sat opposite us.
Pikeys.
I don't believe they like that term. Anyway, he was sat opposite
I did.
us. He was with some of his friends, and a lot of my friends or colleagues had gone, and there were less of us. And he
Yeah.
came over and he looked me in the face and he said, "Why the fuck are you rolling your eyes for?" And I was like, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about." Turns out one of the guys that was with us in our group was a detective, and he
What?
said, "What you've just done is the worst thing you could have done. That's like the biggest insult to them. You're either really dumb
No.
or you've got really massive balls." So I'd say I'm the former. Anyway, I was drunk. Anyway, it is what it is. So they were saying what will happen next is they will come back and they will get one of the empty glasses and they'll smash it on your head. And then they will commit GBH, they'll move to the next campsite, and then they'll never get caught and there'll be no consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, they came back looking for the pint glasses, but we'd already taken them back to the bar, so there were none for them to use.
Mm.
But like 6 of them had gone into the toilets and they were all waiting in there ready to like come out and fight.
Good old
Mm.
traditional
At which point
England.
I told my
And you're just
friends,
waiting around.
I told my friends what happened, and I said we need to move on to another pub. And then the detective and his friends made sure that they didn't follow us out of the pub, and we
How
just
come
left.
you're hanging around with
But he said,
detectives, or was that just someone in there?
he was someone I knew, and I invited them over to play darts. And
Yeah.
luckily enough, he was
Good
just in
thing.
the right place at the right
Yeah.
time. And then the next bar we went to, my friend got freaked out because there was an Irish guy sat there, and I was like, not every Irish person you meet is going to be a like part of the traveller community. It's just so funny. And yeah, we had an all right night after that, but I will know not to go in that pub again because I don't really want to get into a fight with those guys.
Yeah.
Everywhere you're going to find bad apples.
The UK
And
is
it's
like
just
massively
about
changed, but it also hasn't changed, if that makes sense.
no.
Yeah.
I mean, people always fight, but people certainly use weapons a lot more than they used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But I think at the end of the day, if you're in a group of people and you're having fun, and someone else is having a miserable time,
Yeah.
and they've got negative energy and you've got positive energy, they're gonna come
They'll
over
come
and they're gonna
after
try
you,
and
yeah.
mess with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna
Yeah.
look at you and say, "What's this prick got to be happy for? Let's make his night worse."
Yeah.
And there's always going to be some arsehole trying to do that to you.
Most people have got
I
a good amount of money.
I haven't had a fist fight since I was like probably 21. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, most of the time I can
I had
avoid
a
these
fight
things.
like 2 days ago with your kid.
With who?
It was yesterday.
Which one?
Oh, it was like hitting him with a pair of socks. I was hitting him on the legs.
Oh
wasn't
right.
I?
Oh yeah. Did he just headbutt you?
He was like trying to kick me. Yeah.
Yeah, he broke my nose as well.
Did he?
With a headbutt.
Yeah, they used to like, I don't know, headbutt me or punch me or whatever. You know how kids like jump all over you. But yeah, it is what it is.
You knew
Yeah,
some
I guess
interesting
being a
characters
parent
when you were
gets your
younger,
way.
didn't you?
I
Like
knew a lot of
Dave,
interesting characters.
Jack Lee,
Yeah, Dave.
Will Archdeacon. Yeah.
Yeah, I still know him. Yeah. So
Remember, tell
Dave,
him the story about the aliens under the bed.
the aliens
What?
under the bed. What the fuck,
Yeah,
bro?
Well, we used to consume a lot of substances.
Okay, yeah, he used to take a lot of different drugs, illicit drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the aliens under the bed story. I was going to say, like, Dave was a cool guy, very chill. He always had a toothbrush with him. We
Did
called
he?
him Toothbrush Dave because he always had his toothbrush, but it was so he could always brush his teeth. It was very sensible,
He's moved to
realistically.
Japan now, and that doesn't
He is
surprise
married
me at
to a
all because
Japanese
he kind
woman
of like
and
was a
lives
bit
in
Asian.
Japan.
He's
Yeah.
a bit like a monk. He's like a little monk.
But yeah, he's like an IT engineer, lives in Japan now.
What
My
made
other
him move to
friend,
He
Japan?
was a very
he
smart
married a
person. Yeah.
Japanese woman.
Okay, that was living in England.
I think he met her in Japan, or she came over to England, and then they moved. But
Okay.
he'd met
That's a
a
long
girl
time ago.
before, and it didn't work out.
I
And
mean, but you don't have a lot of Japanese in
No, we
England, do
don't.
you?
Some go to
no, but I think
university here.
she came over.
Yeah.
Brought
Yeah,
ruffians.
we brought ruffians to his home.
I
But
met one
again,
from, and he was like German or Austrian, and he was like, I was
yeah,
fishing, right, and he came and spoke to me. He was like looking for a place to hunt because he was from like a much, much more like rural, traditional society in Austria. You know, in like the
yeah.
valleys and the woods and the forests where they hunt like massive deer. And he was
Have you got a
like
license
looking
for that
around
shotgun,
Buckingham,
mate?
and he was thinking like it's probably going to be the same sort of thing, but no, not
Yeah.
really. There aren't many.
Do you
of
not
them.
remember when we used to go shooting?
Air rifles, shooting rabbits
Yeah, but
with
we would go
chaps.
down to like
Yeah,
fields and try and shoot animals. I was so
I
bad I
didn't
could never
shoot
hit
any.
anything.
I didn't shoot anything, or I wasn't
I
allowed.
tried, I couldn't hit them. But yeah, it was. We used to do some crazy things. Do you remember when you got stuck? We had to
Yeah,
push
but
the
look at you
car in
now,
that
Dan. You
field, and the
don't do
farmer was
any
chasing us.
crazy things. It's such a contrast,
I
isn't
do.
it?
I almost
I
got
just
glassed
wonder
like
why.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, right.
I still do stupid things, but it's normally when I've been drinking.
You guys, so in America, as you may or may not know, everyone in West Texas, where I grew up, has 10, 15 guns, and
Okay,
hundreds or thousands of rounds just flying around. So I've been
just hanging
to
around.
parties, where people will just in the city just walk out in their yard, pow, 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 in the air,
Yeah.
and and then a cop will come up and they're like, "Get off my land, get off my property."
Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and then and you guys turn the music down, and then they'd leave. And
Yeah.
I mean, those were fun times, but as well, sometimes there would be illicit things going on in different rooms,
Yeah.
or even in the
Yeah.
coffee table with lines of different things.
White
Sometimes
lines.
there would
Yeah.
be people would come up and they would ask me, "Hey, we've got these two girls in that room. You want in?" Kind of situations.
Jeez. Wow.
You want around, you know. And then sometimes these things would go on, and just like you said, Dan, most of the time I'd be like, "All right, well, I'll see y'all later," and I would just leave.
Yeah. If it gets really hectic, you just
Yeah.
nope out. That's it. Yeah.
We don't have a
Normies,
lot
man.
I
When
know.
Normies.
when I was younger, my
I have a
waifu was
friend
in a
actually.
band.
Your waifu.
Was in a band.
I have a friend actually who invites us to parties quite often. He's got his own house. Like, when did I put that there? And I just felt very weird, and I
put my
just
hand
wanted to
there?
get home.
You were
Yeah,
getting
yeah. I
hammered.
just lost sense of time. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just felt a bit out of body experience kind of thing. So
Like when you're like riding a
it's not
bike and
really
you
for
like
me.
thinking about something, and you like go onto autopilot,
Mm,
and then you forget like that you're riding
yeah,
the bike. Yeah.
That's a
yeah,
real thing. I think I liked the story of you probably may have heard of the most dangerous road in the world is a straightaway in Australia that goes for like hundreds of miles. It's just a straight road.
Because
But
you're
people
just
get
driving straight. Yeah.
people get mesmerized or put in a trance or something, and then their car just goes off the road and kills them. It's like, and then also
Jeez.
they're oncoming traffic or something, and somehow they just don't see it and veer right into it. But it's a straight road, completely straight, and it's like, but it has
Yeah.
like the most deaths of any road because people get put into a trance or something.
Because
Yeah.
you're just not engaging your brain in any
Yeah.
way. You don't need
Just-
to turn anything. Yeah.
But I think we've all experienced that time travel. I know, like, I drive a lot, America. You guys make jokes about it. That's real.
Mm.
Like, I drive a lot, and I always have my whole life. And yeah, of course, like, I will be driving for 30 minutes or more and just wondering what happened in the last 30 minutes, and I cannot bring
You
that
lose
memory.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's common, super common. And it's, most people will say it's that trance is sort of
Yeah.
the blame for it. What else could be going on? I don't know. But I have a
Right.
feeling that more is going on.
Or even getting in the car.
I have a cousin from Dallas. So Dallas, Fort Worth is a metroplex. It's like one big city. It's probably bigger
Yeah.
than London when
Yeah.
you combine the two. It would be the largest by population in America if it was one city. And they live there, and one of them I know has wrecked their car twice, and the other one once from falling asleep. Like, because they'll be driving on, and I'm talking about on and winding it, overpass interstate style spaghetti, because it's a big city, and they would just fall asleep kind of while semi awake, and then just fly off the rail of a bridge or an
Yeah.
overpass, and they totaled their car, like rolled it and everything, like twice, and then he still keeps falling asleep. Like,
Wow.
they just can't help it, and it's happened to both of them. They're like brother sister, you know.
Did you
'Cause
ever
I'm
drive
just
on
Yeah.
that thing in Japan, in Tokyo, where it's like elevated above the road? I don't know what it's
Who,
called.
me?
Like Tokyo Expressway or something? Yeah. Did you ever like
We have those
go on that?
in America. We have the
The
probably the
flyovers. Yeah.
biggest. What?
Yeah, it's like a
Is it
like a motorway.
flyovers
Like.
in America? Like,
Let me
It's
Google
kind of
that.
cool in Tokyo though, because
What-
you got all the buildings and like.
and you can just drive around the edge of the island on one of these really high motorways, basically.
Do your British accent, Eric. Do your Paul
No,
Cook,
I
Paul
don't have
Cook
one.
accent.
I'm terrible at that.
The geezer.
Oh
Is it
yeah,
Paul Cook?
like I watched the Paul Cook channel, and he's like, I'm the real geezer on the geezer, and he'll talk about. He's got that. What's that? Jason Statham accent, or what is it called? That, like, the super thick one. Is it like the southeast England?
It's a
Where
bit
it's
like
just like,
Cockney, isn't it?
South
oh, yeah,
London.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's very thick, like, and I just laugh at it because that guy Paul Cook, he's got a channel, and he's like, oh, big up, mate, what's the oh, hey, old girl, I don't worry, I call everyone old girl, even my best mates. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? But it's pretty
You right,
funny.
girl?
Yeah.
Meow maca. Yeah.
If you've never seen his channel, you should watch it just to listen to his
Just
his
to
little
hear it.
phrases. Yeah.
Nice.
If you type El Paso Spaghetti Junction, I don't know.
So Eric
El
came
Paso.
from quite a
That's
spooky
where I grew up.
place when he was younger. Yeah,
Our house.
Spooky place.
just the whole area,
So
wasn't it?
if there is a such thing as like hauntings or being haunted, whatever that is,
Yeah.
definitely the house I grew up in was one of those. From everything from weird feelings, sounds, noises, apparitions, stuff moving, all that. We had all that growing up, like in my house, to where we had to bring in a priest and try to bless the rooms and all this stuff. And like my parents, not just the kids, everyone was flipping out, and the house had a history and all this. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like, I could go on if you want to hear about it.